I spent the whole afternoon getting everything ready. The table was set just the way I imagined, simple, clean, a bit hopeful. I laid out the white plates my wife and I picked out together when we first moved in, the ones we never really used unless people were coming over. Glasses polished until they caught the light just right. I even lit the scented candle she liked, vanilla and sandalwood, and placed it next to a small chocolate cake I bought from that bakery downtown, the one she once said made the best frosting. I wasn't expecting a big party, just dinner with the people I thought cared. My wife, my parents, maybe even my younger brother, if he could pull himself away from whatever startup he's pitching this week. By 6:30, I was still telling myself people were just running late. Maybe traffic, maybe my wife had planned something and just hadn't said anything. She liked surprises. I kept checking my phone every few minutes, then putting it face down like that would stop time from moving faster. At 7, I poured myself a glass of water, then another just to keep busy. The food was starting to cool, but I didn't want to touch it. It felt wrong to start without anyone there. By 8, I had stopped pretending. The candle had burned low, flickering shadows across the table. The chocolate on the cake had started to sweat a little from the warmth. I hadn't eaten anything all day, saving room for the dinner I thought I'd be sharing. But I wasn't hungry anymore. My stomach felt tight, like it was filled with air and disappointment. I kept glancing at the front door, waiting for the sound of a key turning, footsteps, even a knock. But nothing came. The apartment stayed quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like a weight pressing down on your chest. I thought maybe my parents had forgotten, but my wife? No, she couldn't have. She had to be on her way or maybe stuck somewhere. Maybe she was planning something and wanted to surprise me. That thought kept me going longer than I'd like to admit. I replayed moments in my head, our morning coffee that felt rushed, her quick kiss goodbye without looking me in the eye. I had brushed it off then. I didn't want to believe it meant anything. At 9, I gave up pretending. I sat at the edge of the couch, my back straight, like I was still expecting someone to walk through the door and catch me in the middle of something worth celebrating. I picked up my phone again. The screen lit up, bright and cold. No missed calls, no texts, nothing. I stared at it for a long time, hoping something, anything, would pop up. But the only thing staring back at me was silence. My thumb hovered over her name longer than I'd like to admit. I stared at the screen, hoping it would light up on its own, that maybe she'd call first. She didn't. I finally tapped it, held the phone to my ear, heart pounding like I was doing something wrong. It rang twice. Then I heard her voice. Laughter spilled through the line, sharp and bright, like she was in the middle of a joke. Her voice didn't soften when she answered. No hey babe, no surprise, no concern. Just my name, like I'd interrupted something she didn't want paused. Julian, she said, with that tone she uses when she's half listening, already somewhere else. I swallowed and tried to keep my voice steady. Hey, I said. I was just wondering, are you coming home soon? There was a pause, not long, but enough to tell me she hadn't remembered. Home? No. I told you I had plans tonight, she said, still distracted, her words quick and careless. I could hear music in the background, the clinking of glasses, people talking, laughing. She wasn't alone. It's my birthday, I said. The words came out smaller than I meant them to, not angry, just there. She laughed, not the kind that covers up guilt, not even awkward, just a short, amused laugh, like I'd told her something ridiculous. Oh, she said, like she'd forgotten, like it didn't matter. Right, sorry. I thought that was next week or something. Then another laugh. You're not mad, are you? I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. I was trying to breathe, trying to understand how the person I married, the one who used to write cards with little hearts in the margins, was now laughing because she missed my birthday. Where are you? I asked. Another pause. Then, out. Just grabbing drinks. It's no big deal. Another voice came through the line, deep, close, a man. He said her name, too casual, too familiar. I knew the voice, Evan, her co-worker, the one she said was just funny, the one she used to joke about over dinner like he was harmless. She giggled, covered the receiver, and I heard her whisper something to him. Muffled words, intimacy. I wasn't supposed to hear it, but I did. I felt something crack inside me. Not loud, not dramatic, just a shift, like something small giving up. "I'll let you go," I said, not waiting for her to respond. She didn't ask me to stay on the call. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't even say goodbye. The line just clicked, then went dead. And I was left holding the phone to my ear, listening to nothing. She walked into the room like she belonged there, even though it was a place filled with strangers. I remember how her eyes scanned the crowd, confident but kind, how her smile landed on me like it was meant to. We started talking over lukewarm coffee at that networking event neither of us wanted to be at. I cracked a joke, and she laughed. Not the way she laughs now, but something softer, warmer. She asked me what I did, and when I told her about software, she said, "That sounds brilliant," like she meant it. I'd never heard anyone say that before. Our first date was simple. A walk through the park, talking about everything from childhood to books we never finished. She liked old movies, loved thunderstorms, hated raisins. I remember thinking, this is it. She was the kind of person who made even silence feel comfortable. I didn't have to impress her, I could just be. When I proposed, it was raining. She wore a yellow coat and no makeup. I forgot the speech I had planned and just asked her with shaking hands and a hopeful heart. She said yes before I even finished the sentence. We danced under that gray sky, soaked to the bone and laughing like kids. The wedding was small but beautiful. She cried during her vows. I remember her hands trembling as she held mine, promising to choose me every day, even when it was hard. I believed her, I believed in us. Everyone said we looked like the perfect match, me, quiet and steady, her, vibrant and full of light. We talked about the future like it was a book we were going to write together. A house with a porch, 2 kids, a dog named Charlie. In the beginning, everything was shared. Morning routines, late night snacks, weekend plans. We had our own language, inside jokes, looks that said more than words. She'd sit beside me while I worked, legs crossed on the couch, pretending to read but watching me with this small smile like I was enough. I lived for those moments. But somewhere along the way, the small things stopped. The morning texts, the way she used to grab my hand while we crossed the street, the way she looked at me like I was her person. Slowly, her laughter stopped sounding like it used to. Her eyes stopped meeting mine. She started spending more time outside the house, coming home tired, distracted, always with excuses that felt too polished. We still shared a space, but not a life. Conversations turned into logistics. Touch turned into routine. I kept waiting for the tide to turn back, for her to look at me the way she used to. I don't know when things changed. I just know they did. It started with late nights at work. At first, it made sense. She was moving up in her company, taking on more responsibility, leading big projects. She'd come home tired, drop her bag by the door, and say she didn't even have time to eat. I'd warm something up, sit with her in the quiet, and listen to her vent about meetings and deadlines. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. When someone you love tells you they're just tired, you don't assume they're tired of you. Then it became weekend trips. Networking events, she called them, always in new cities, always with the same group of people. I asked if I could come once, not to interfere, just to be there. She laughed and said it wasn't that kind of trip. "It's work, babe. You'd be bored." I told myself she was probably right. I didn't want to seem insecure. She started keeping her phone closer. It used to sit on the coffee table while we watched TV, face down, forgotten. Now it was always in her hand, screen glowing late into the night. If I glanced over, she'd tilt it away. I asked about it once, gently, and she said she was just checking emails. "You really think I'm hiding something?" she asked, her tone sharp. I backed off. I planned dinners, just the 2 of us. Booked a weekend at the cabin she once said she loved. She canceled last minute. Something came up at work. I made her favorite meal one night, lit candles, put on the playlist from our wedding. She walked in, barely noticed, said she wasn't hungry, went straight to bed. There were other signs too. Her eyes didn't light up when I walked in the room. Her hugs felt one-sided, like she was just going through the motions. Conversations got shorter. I'd ask about her day, and she'd answer with a word or two, then return to scrolling through her phone. When I asked what was wrong, she said nothing. When I pushed, she said I was imagining things. I gave her space. I told myself love meant trusting someone even when it was hard. I thought maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe I was the one not doing enough. So I tried harder, did more around the house, gave her compliments, asked fewer questions, waited. But she never came back. One night I came home early from work. The apartment was quiet, dark. Her coat was gone. Her shoes were missing from the hallway. I texted her, asked where she was, no reply. Hours passed. When she finally walked in, she looked surprised to see me. She said she was out with friends, nothing serious. But the way she looked past me, not at me, that was when I knew. She wasn't just distant, she was gone. Growing up, it was always about my brother. He was the loud one, the funny one, the one who could walk into a room and own it without even trying. At family dinners, all eyes turned to him. He'd tell a half-finished story, and everyone would lean in like he was saying something brilliant. I'd sit there with my plate, trying to find a moment to speak. Most of the time, I didn't bother. I wasn't jealous, not really. I just wanted to be seen. I got good grades, won a regional science fair, built a working app in high school that helped organize local blood drives. My parents smiled when I showed them, said things like, "That's nice, honey," and then went back to talking about how my brother scored another goal in his weekend soccer game. I stopped showing them things after a while. It hurt less. When I graduated college early, they didn't come to the ceremony, said they couldn't make it because of a work trip they'd already committed to. But a week later, they posted photos from a beach vacation, smiling, laughing, not a care in the world. My brother was in them, holding a drink, flashing his perfect grin. I wasn't even mentioned. I thought getting married would change things. I imagined a new kind of family, one that celebrated birthdays, showed up with cake and candles, asked how I was really doing. I thought maybe my wife would help bridge the gap, pull them closer to me, show them what I couldn't seem to prove on my own. For a little while, it almost felt like it worked. They called more often. We had dinner together a few times. But slowly, things slipped back. They loved her. Of course they did. She was polished and charming, knew how to work a room. They'd ask her about her job, her opinions, her goals. I'd sit beside her, nodding along, occasionally offering a thought that no one asked for. My dad once told me, half laughing, "You married up, son." I smiled, but it stung, like I wasn't enough on my own. This birthday wasn't just another missed moment. It was confirmation. They didn't call, didn't text, not even a lazy message on a family group chat. I kept checking, hoping maybe the signal was bad, maybe someone forgot the time difference, but nothing came. Not from my parents, not from my brother. I don't even know where he is right now. Last I heard, he was somewhere overseas for a real estate deal, always chasing something bigger, always shining brighter, and here I am, sitting in the silence they left behind. I've tried for years to earn a place in their world, to be the son, the brother, the man they could be proud of. But I think I've finally figured it out. I don't think they ever really saw me. The candle was still burning, but barely. Its flame danced low, flickering like it was tired too. The food on the table had gone cold. The steam that once rose from the dishes had vanished, leaving only silence and the smell of garlic and herbs fading into the air. The cake sat untouched, a single fork beside it, waiting for a hand that never reached for it. The chair across from mine was empty, still pulled out slightly, like someone had just stepped away and would be right back. But no one came. I kept glancing at it anyway, my eyes drawn to that space, as if hoping it would fill itself. The room felt bigger than usual, like the walls had stretched just to show me how alone I really was. I could hear everything, the hum of the fridge, the soft ticking of the wall clock, the occasional creak from the floorboards under my feet. I leaned back and let the silence take over. At first it was heavy. The kind of quiet that presses on your chest, makes you feel like something's wrong, like something's missing. Then it turned into something else, something that made space for thoughts to rise, the kind that lets old words echo louder than they should. Things she said, things I didn't. Moments that seemed small at the time, but now felt like warnings I ignored. "You're too sensitive. I'm just tired. Don't overthink it." Over ceramic and glass. Each rinse, each wipe felt like something old being cleared away. Not for anyone else, just for peace. The cake went into the bin with barely a sound. No ceremony, no regret. Not everything spoiled is a tragedy. Some things are just no longer needed. The candle was tossed next. Only a stub remained. Wax dried into hardened swirls at the base. The scent lingered faintly in the air, sweet and smoky, like a goodbye that didn't sting. A towel passed over the table, wiped away the last signs of what was meant to be a party, but it had turned into something else, something smaller but more real. Two people, one honest pie, one moment that mattered. The list began in the mind first, quietly, without pressure. Stop waiting for people who forget your name unless they need something. Stop reaching out just to feel seen. Stop pretending silence means peace when it's really just absence. Stop checking the phone for messages that never come. Stop giving chances to those who don't notice they've already had too many. Start showing up for yourself first. Start building without asking who's watching. Start protecting your time like it matters because it does. Start trusting the people who already care. Start believing you're worth more than being someone's second choice. The trash was tied and taken out. The dishes dried and returned to their shelves. The sunflowers were trimmed, given fresh water, placed back at the center of the clean table. Not for decoration, but for proof. Proof that something bright had been left behind. Something that hadn't wilted. No text messages were checked. No missed calls opened. The phone sat still, screen dark and untouched. A quiet decision settled in the room like sunlight warming cold walls. Nothing loud, nothing final. Just a change, beginning where all changes do, not in grand speeches, but in what no longer needed to be done. The passwords were changed first. Every account, every login, every shared app. Each keystroke felt like taking back a piece of something that had been slowly slipping away. No anger behind it, just calm, focused purpose. The bank app followed, new PIN, new access, separate savings. The old joint account remained untouched, left behind like the echo of a shared life that no longer fit. A quiet line drawn between what was and what would never be again. The lawyer answered on the second ring, a steady voice on the other end. Old friend, trusted name, no judgment, no shock, just clear instructions. We'll keep it clean, fair, you deserve that. The papers would be ready in days. Nothing dramatic, no accusations, just facts, just closure, the way it should be. Work became a sanctuary. Fingers flew across the keyboard, not out of pressure, but clarity. The project that had been on hold for months came back to life. Code flowed again, ideas resurfaced. It felt good to build something with direction, something that couldn't betray or disappear. The hours passed quickly, not as an escape, but as proof there was still something solid to stand on. A call came from a former colleague. Small talk turned into opportunity, an offer to lead a new feature rollout, higher responsibility, bigger spotlight. The old instinct might have hesitated. Now there was no doubt. Yes was the only answer, not to prove anything, just because it felt right. Photos were the last to go, not all at once, not with bitterness, just a quiet sorting. A wedding picture tucked in the back of a drawer, no longer displayed. A photo of a vacation sunset, beautiful but empty, deleted without a pause. A single image of her laughing, paused on the screen for a moment longer. Then gone? Not out of spite, but because the version of her in that photo didn't exist anymore. The apartment felt different after that, lighter. The shadows didn't stretch as far. The air didn't cling as heavy. The suitcase came down from the top shelf, not for a trip, but for a move. A new apartment had been found. A smaller space, older walls, but more windows and no memories. The deposit was paid. The keys would be ready by next week. An email was drafted to the landlord. Thank you for everything. I'll be vacating at the end of the month. Simple. Director. A clean goodbye. Before bed, the phone was placed face down. Notifications left unread. No need to explain. No need to wait. A book was opened instead. Pages turned slowly. The silence now soft. The night no longer something to get through, but something to rest in. In the dark, nothing felt broken. Nothing felt missing. Something had ended, and something else had quietly begun. The new place smelled like wood and rain. Boxes lined the wall, unopened but not urgent. A small table stood by the window, a single chair tucked in. The coffee brewed slow, filling the air with warmth. Outside, the sky stretched wide and gray, soft light slipping across the floorboards. The mug fit easy in one hand, chipped at the rim, but solid. No decorations, no cake, no... I replayed those lines over and over, wondering why I let them slide and why I kept forgiving things that never changed. Why I accepted the slow disappearance of someone who once swore she'd never leave. I remembered how many times I stared at her across the table, just like this, waiting for her to look up from her phone, to smile at me the way she used to. Most nights, she didn't. I thought of all the birthdays before this one. The one where she brought me a keychain with our initials. The one where she was late, but came running in with a cupcake and a silly card. Then the one where she said she had to work late and forgot to call. That one had hurt, but not like this. The coffee I had poured hours earlier was cold now. I took a sip anyway, the bitterness cutting through everything else. It grounded me. My eyes moved to my phone again, screen still dark, no new notifications. I didn't pick it up this time, I just let it sit there. Something shifted in that stillness. Not loudly, not suddenly, just a quiet decision taking shape. A small voice inside, steady and tired of waiting. No more checking the time, no more excuses for other people, no more hoping for things that don't arrive. I looked at the room one more time, the plates, the candles, the empty chair. Then I stood up, pushed the chair in, and walked away. I wasn't waiting anymore. The knock was soft but sure, just one. Then a pause, then two more. Not rushed, not hesitant, just enough to make the heart jump. It wasn't the delivery guy, wasn't someone lost. It was someone who meant to be there. The hallway light spilled through the open door. And there she stood. A coat wrapped tight around her shoulders, a bouquet of sunflowers in one hand, and foil-covered dish in the other. "Happy birthday," she said with a smile that didn't ask for permission. Not too loud, not too soft. Just enough warmth to thaw something inside. The last time she'd been here was years ago, back when things were simpler, back when conversations lasted hours and the world felt wide open. Seeing her there now, unchanged in the ways that mattered, felt like a breath you didn't realize you'd been holding finally let go. She stepped inside without asking, setting the flowers on the table without commenting on the empty plates or the untouched cake. The dish in her hands went straight to the kitchen counter. "Lemon pie," she said over her shoulder. "Don't ask how it turned out. It's either genius or glue." No small talk, no awkward silences, just presence. She walked through the space like someone familiar with silence, not the kind that hurts, but the kind that listens. Her eyes moved over the room, taking in the details without pointing them out. She didn't ask why no one else was there. She didn't offer sympathy wrapped in pity. She just sat down and waited, letting the quiet settle around both of them. 2 glasses came out of the cabinet. The whiskey bottle followed, still unopened in the center of the table where it had waited all evening. The cork came off with a soft pop. She poured one for each of them and raised hers gently. "To still being here," she said. No long speech, no dramatic gesture, just a simple sentence that said everything. The pie was surprisingly not glue, a little tart, a little sweet, uneven at the edges like it had been made with real hands and not perfection. They ate slowly, the kind of slow that comes when time finally feels like a friend and not something chasing you down. She asked about work, not like she was filling space, but because she cared. Stories came out in pieces, about coding, about missed calls, about coffee gone cold, and a laugh that still rang in the wrong way. She listened the way only a few people ever do, not waiting for her turn to speak, not fixing, just being there. Later, when the candles had burned lower and the plates were pushed to the side, she smiled again. "You know," she said, "you're not as invisible as you think." And in that quiet room, for the first time in a long time, it felt true. The morning light slid through the curtains, soft and gold. The apartment smelled faintly of melted wax and lemon pie. Plates from the night before sat on the table, crumbs scattered near half-empty glasses. The cake, still untouched, had begun to dry at the edges. The fork beside it remained clean. No one had used it, except her, except the one person who showed up. The flowers in the vase, sunflowers bright and unbothered, stood tall in the center of it all, a reminder that the night hadn't ended the way it started, not with silence, not with the weight of being forgotten, but with conversation, laughter, and the warmth of someone who remembered, someone who didn't need a reason to show up, someone who just did. Each plate lifted carried more than crumbs. It carried the memory of what was said and what wasn't. Not every silence is painful. Some are healing. Some fill the space between two people like music. The water from the tap ran cold. Candles. Just peace. The phone rested in a drawer, powered off, forgotten for now. No buzz, no glow, no questions waiting to be answered. No apologies coming either. And that was fine. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was chosen. Memories drifted in and out without noise. The table set for no one. The untouched meal. The voice on the phone, too busy laughing to hear the weight in the words. A birthday passed without effort from the people who once promised they'd always be there. Not one message, not one knock at the door, except hers. Sunflowers now stood in a jar on the windowsill, petals tilted toward the light. They hadn't wilted. Neither had he. The chair felt steady. The coffee tasted bold. There was no need to check the time. No one to impress, no one to wait for. The day moved slow, and that was enough. A walk began without destination, down the stairs, out the door, into a neighborhood still unfamiliar, but full of possibility. The air smelled of pavement and trees. A passing dog barked once, then kept going. Somewhere, someone played guitar through an open window, the notes soft and steady. Each step felt lighter than the last. There was no need to rehearse conversations that would never happen. No more wondering if someone remembered. No more shrinking to fit a space that was never built to hold him. This birthday didn't end with celebration. It ended with clarity. People who wanted to be there were. People who didn't, weren't. That was all. The walk turned back toward the building. The door opened with ease. Inside, the place still smelled like new beginnings. A slice of pie waited in the fridge, the kind made by someone who knew how to show up even when no one else did. The coffee cup returned to the sink, the light outside faded, the quiet wrapped around everything like a soft blanket. No noise, no pretending, just breathe. She laughed when he said it was his birthday. But that laugh, that was the moment he chose himself.